Welcome to The Perch. I'm your co-host, Angelina.
And I'm your co-host, Kenna.
How have you been, Kenna?
I've been good. I just got my hair braided.
I can tell. Oh my goodness, when you came in, when I saw you come in with that hair, I was like, oh my goodness, she cute. Look at her.
Yeah, my mom's very happy to not have to help me with my hair for the next 2-ish months.
Yeah.
She's
valid.
Stoked. It's too much work. I got too much hair.
I understand. When I was growing up, my mom was very aggressive when she did my hair. It'd be the morning before school and she'd be like, okay, come on, let's go.
I know. My mom would always forget that my hair is actually attached to my head.
Yeah.
I love her to bits, but man, would she pull.
Nowadays, I don't even let her do my hair. I'm like, no, I got it, Mom. I'll curl it, I'll do whatever. I can't even see the back. The back doesn't matter.
The back doesn't matter. We ignore the back.
Yeah. But yeah, when I was growing up, my hair was naturally more wavy.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that was even how my mom's hair was, too. But, I don't know. She used a lot of heat to, straighten it, with the hair dryer or straightener or curling iron, what have you. So I think I grew up, also doing that same sort of song and dance with straightening my hair.
Yeah.
So, right now, I know my hair is not as naturally wavy as it could be.
Yeah. I know. It's pretty healthy now, but even, my senior year of high school, which was a few years ago, I, straightened it 2 times in a row. And I got it professionally straightened. So that means, she was running through with a hot comb, which is, a metal comb they heat up on the stove.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Multiple, times to, get it straight. And it looked great. It was sleek. It was nice. But, my curls, when I would wash my hair, so stringy. So stringy. Yeah. And so it took, a solid, year or 2 for it to, be back to where it is now.
Yeah, I bet. I know I've seen, some videos where it's, you could tell, the, loss of curl pattern, and then when they grow it out, it's a lot more defined.
Yeah, it's definitely really interesting when you're washing it and you see oh my gosh, it's so curly, and then it's gets progressively looser and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, it's so interesting how I don't know, when I was younger, I feel I had a lot more pressure to have my hair look polished and not, I guess you could say, raggedy or messy or whatever.
Yeah.
Society, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know a word that gets used quite a bit in the Black community is nappy. You know, your hair is nappy. I know one thing that was really pushed on me, my grandma was you have to make sure your hair looks good. You know, it was always because, being a woman of color, especially being a Black woman, with my experience, the standard is so much higher for how you have to present yourself to the world, and I feel that's also reflected in media as well. Even just the TV shows we watch growing up, you know?
Yes.
Started really young.
Yeah. We couldn't even go into that. What shows do you think really affected you when you were growing up? About your hair and how you presented yourself?
I mean, it was probably mostly shows on Disney, because those were that was a channel with the most live action shows for so you were seeing actual people instead of animated characters. But on Disney Channel, there were Black characters, in movies and TV shows, I watched Jessie, so Zuri was in there. Scott Jackson is Zuri, loved her. She had her hair natural most of the time, which was really, really cool.
That is good.
But even in shows even in movies like High School Musical, I know Taylor Mackenzie, who played Monique Coleman, it came out years after the movie that her hair was always in that style with the headband because no one on set knew how to do her hair.
I remember it was always that really blunt straight bob with the purple or white or whatever headband.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see that, and not to say it's bad to straighten your hair, because I like to straighten my hair. I like to do different styles. I think that's one of the things I really like about my hair type, is that I can do so much with it. But at the same time, it's also just there's that pressure to kind of be keep it nice, keep it tidy, and that tidiness isn't what my natural hair is like.
Yeah, I think it's especially with kids shows and when you're a kid, you don't really, if you're not in a household that teaches you how to manage your hair, it's very hard to find that information, or at least when I was younger. So it's I don't know what products to use, or what I don't know what sort of routine to have. And I don't know, even the shows, you'd be oh, you have to look like this or have your hair curl like this. Yeah.
Yeah. And even with, like, I know Casey Undercover with Zendaya. I never watched Shake It Up prior to that, but I did watch Casey Undercover. And I know specifically as, you know, a mixed woman, her hair is a little looser in terms of its curl pattern, you know, but you still would see her, like, wear it, you know, specifically on red carpets, you know, but, like, even when her hair did appear curly, you could tell, you know, it was straightened and then, like, just curled very heavily.
Yes.
You know, which, again, isn't a bad thing, but it's also just, like, you can tell. You know, you can tell it's just like, okay, that's, like, different than everything else. You know, so there's still, like, that difference. It's still, like, you know, like, more neater and more defined than, like, my natural hair is. Because it's kind of just, like, a bit of a mass that I love. But then, like, you can see, like, the curls within it. You know, my hair isn't very naturally defined, you know, which is something, like, even within, like, the quote-unquote curly hair community, you know, like, we seek, like, definition and long curls and stuff like that. And so, like, it was, like, even with curly hair representation, like, in, like, Zuri and Jessie, you know, it wasn't, like, my hair type. You didn't see a lot of, like, you know, like, non-defined 4C hair in media when I was growing up. And so, like, I had a really hard time, you know, seeing my hair as beautiful, you know, and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, I can see, because I watched Shake It Up when it came out, and Zendaya, you can definitely tell, like, her hair was straightened and then curled, like you were saying. And even a bit in Casey Undercover, but, like, not as much. I don't know. Shake It Up, very much straightening. A lot of straightening of hair for even just, like, other shows, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, when she ended up playing MJ in the Spider-Man series, you know, that's, like, what her natural hair seems to be like most of the time, which is kind of, like, the looser curls.
Yeah.
You know, and it looks great either way, you know. I mean, she always looks good. She's on her Challengers press tour right now.
Yes.
You know, she was on the Dune before, killing it as per usual.
Zendaya, I wish to have that confidence, just that energy.
I know, the woman that you are, Zendaya, the woman that you are. Yeah, but I know another thing was, like, specifically with black hair, because, again, that's where my experience comes from as a black woman, is that, like, while doing research for this episode, it almost seems like representation got, like, less and less and less, at least with shows that I grew up watching. You know, like the previously mentioned Casey Undercover, Jessie, I know you said you watched Shake It Up, you know, but shows like The Cosby Show and Moesha and stuff like that, like, they had locks or they had, like, different types of braid styles, and, like, that was, you know, Moesha Mitchell, you know, which was played by Brandy, like, she was, like, the queen of that. Like, if you look up any of her hairstyles, like, you didn't even know you could do that type of stuff with, like, with box braids, with braids like this that are smaller given. But, like, it's just, it was really, really impressive. You know, I didn't watch the show growing up, but I, you know, started watching it when I was in high school, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, this is so cute. I didn't know I could do this with my hair, you know, because, like, you feel like there's, like, a lot of limitations when you have, like, textured hair, you know, as comparison to, like, people who have, you know, naturally straight hair.
That's true. I actually haven't seen any of the shows that you mentioned.
That's okay, I haven't finished any of the shows that I just mentioned.
Oh, I have not finished enough shows. It's either I rewatch the same show over and over again, or I start it and then I never finish it.
No, that's completely relatable. Or when you rewatch it, you only skip through certain episodes. Every time I watch Gilmore Girls, I watch it one way through the first time, and I'm just like, Rory Gilmore, you get on my nerves. I'm not rewatching this thing all the way through.
Yeah, that's me with Once Upon a Time. I literally have been rewatching it over and over, but I have to. It's only up until, like, season 3.
Really?
Everything after Elsa comes in.
Yeah, I know. The same with me.
I'm like, you know what? I'm not here for it.
I know. It's just like leave it to kind of like the more traditional fairy tales, you know. But it's cool. It's so cool seeing the adaptations, regardless. But it's just like, oh, she came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
We're just including everybody now. Okay, great.
Yeah, that's how that show went. Especially at the, like, final seasons, you're like, oh my goodness.
Who are these people?
You're really trying to find all the characters that you
Yeah,
have.
no, they hit every single point in Disney. I was just like, wow, you know, because, like, I mean, like, Disney owns ABC, which I think the show ran on, so, like, they had the rights to, like, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, hey, if it's accessible to you, then go for it.
Yeah, true, but I liked that show a lot.
Me too.
It's, like, one of my favorites.
Yeah. First few seasons are really good, though.
Because you could, like, tell that there was, like, really good writing.
Yeah.
And, like, each point, like, there was, like, foreshadowing for, like, the following
It made
episode.
sense. And then, like, especially, like, when they did that, it was, like, another curse, and they, like, went to, like, the world, but like it was like in a metropolitan area, and it's just like, what's going on? And like the only guy I was remember was the kid, was Henry. I was just like, all right, you know.
It really went from like, oh, it's a curse. We broke it, and then they're like, another curse came.
Psych.
Just kidding. You gotta break it again, and that's really their way to like get out of if they don't know what to do with the season.
Yeah, I was just like, either just like skip it or like end it. Like I'd be happy with just like a good shorter show, you know. But hey,
Yeah, but that show was very, very like storyline, like start of one season, ended in another season, or like it was very like through. Whereas like I feel like the kids shows that I watch were very more episodic.
yeah,
And more like standalone episodes. Like they would reference things from one episode to the other, but it, like
you could start off in the middle of a season and it
Mhm.
have nothing to do with the previous season. Now like general theme, but like different story every time.
But yeah, like growing up with Disney Channel shows, even though they're episodic, like each episode kind of had their own like theme or like message that they were trying to send. Where if it was like, oh, certain body types are inclusive, or like be nice to everyone or share, it's like they always had messages, and most of the time they were positive. But occasionally, like growing up, you can tell like certain jokes that the characters would say or certain comebacks, even though like they were supposed to be like let's say like Lizzie McGuire or something. Like it would be like the mean girl. It's like, oh, I can't believe you did this, and then Lizzie McGuire would be like, oh, well, I can see your mustache through there, and it's just like, okay,
Like bit of a leap.
yeah, I don't know. Sometimes even like the protagonist would say some like not some great stuff because of the writing of like early 2000s shows.
Yeah.
I know that really affected me when I was growing up because I'm a naturally sort of like hairy gal. I don't know, that just runs in my family. I got a little bit of mustache, a little bit of eyebrow hair, a little bit of leg hair. That's okay. But I know growing up watching a lot of those shows, like you would have to shave your legs, wax your mustache, do all these things to look the same or fit in and like look like other characters in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish, looking back on it, that they weren't so much like degrading natural things that women and just people have.
Yeah.
And it was really like just girls if they had hair rather than guys if they had hair.
Because, like, well, you didn't see a lot of, like, especially on Disney Channel characters with, you know, body hair, like, male characters with, like, body hair, specifically, like, facial hair and stuff like that, unless, like, they were stated to specifically be an adult. You know, it was just, like, constantly, like, the female characters that are just getting dogged on for, like, and, like, you couldn't even see it either on camera, you know, because, like, they were already making these, you know, most of the time kids, you know, just, like, shave their bodies if they weren't, like, waxing some type of a treatment to, like, remove their body hair. And so it's just like you look at these, you know, girls, you know, these women who already were like hairless, and then hear people comment about how much hair they had, and then you look at yourself and be like, well, I have this much, you know, and they don't have any, but they're still getting, you know, bullied about it. Like, what do I do?
It's like so weird. Like, I know they want to like have a nice like, be like groomed or be clean, but I don't know. In the shows, I feel like the jokes about hair for women was like, you have too much, whereas the jokes for guys about their hair is like, oh, you don't have enough, or it's like you're balding, or you don't have a mustache, you don't have chest hair. Whereas when it was girls, it's like, oh, you got leg hair, you got a mustache, it's just weird. This like, I don't know, it's like guys can have this but girls can't.
Yeah.
It just bugged me.
And even, like, with, like, the guys be like, oh, my gosh, like, I have, like, a single, like, chest hair. Like, I know that was, like, a consistent joke in both, like, live-action shows and also, like, in cartoons as well. You know? And then, like, with the girls be like, oh, my gosh, like, that's so gross. And, like, they double down on it. You know? Like, it'd be constantly brought up. I think, like, sometimes it'd be whole episodes just talking about, like, body hair. You know? Or at least, like, a segment of it that was just way too long in retrospect.
Yeah.
You know? It's just like, this is a show for kids. Like, you're Like, what are you doing, you know? Like, you don't need to start shaving at the age of, like, 10.
Literally, like, these kids are so young.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I made it, when I was growing up, personally, I made it a point where I'm like, I'm not gonna shave my legs. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that. But, like, one day, like, my cousin came over, and she's like, we're gonna shave your legs today. And I'm like, okay. Here I am in the bathtub learning how to, like, shave my legs. And, like, I guess it's, like, a rite of passage, but it's just weird that that's, like, it's like, now you're a woman because you don't shave your legs. And I'm like, that shouldn't be it. You could be a woman and have hair and grow it out. And sometimes people have, like, certain, like illnesses or, like, health issues where hair is just natural, like PCOS. I know some people, like, just have a lot of hair growth.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I wish that society didn't, like, drive that point where it's like women have to be hairless.
Yeah. There's another thing that people have brought up, and also, like, it kind of connects to, like, why should grown women look more like prepubescent girls is another point. Because, I mean, just, like, you don't start growing that hair. It doesn't really become super defined till after puberty.
Yeah.
And so, like, some people brought up a point, like, it's also kind of weird to just want grown women to be completely hairless.
That is weird.
Just like, okay, like, why do I have to be as hairless as I was when I was in elementary school? That's an odd ask.
Yeah, it's so hard. It takes so long to shave my legs.
I know, I get a headache when I'm, like, turning around.
Yeah, like what is it? Like a full shower where you're like...
The everything showers.
The everything shower. Where you're like, have to wash your body, wash your face, wash your hair.
Yeah, there's gonna be like an intermission and things like that. Because you're just in there for so long, the water gets cold.
Yeah. And you're like, why am I doing this? Sometimes I'm tired. I'm lazy.
I wanna shower and go to sleep.
Exactly.
I love seeing those compilations on TikTok. I eat them up every time though. I'll be honest with you. It's just like, how long are you in there? Because, like, not only are they taking the shower, they're filming it all with different angles too. I'm just like, I mean, hey, get your bag, girl, get your bag. But, like, oh my gosh, like, one thing I always think of is, like, especially when they walk away, they gotta come back for the camera.
Yeah. Or have you ever seen those, like, videos of, like, people where they're like in public where they have their like phone on a tripod and they walk away and they do, like, an aesthetic, like, oh, we're just walking through this hallway or this garden, and then you see them, like, run back.
Yeah, they'll show the behind the scenes and, like, running back. I've heard sometimes people will, like, think they left their phone or their camera and then, like, hand it back to them, which I think is even more embarrassing than being seen doing.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love aesthetic videos. Sometimes you just have to, like, not think about it too hard.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? They probably had to, like, have a stranger hold it or, like, just put it there. Ugh.
Yeah, just thank them for embarrassing themselves for my enjoyment.
Yeah.
You are appreciated.
Yeah. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe we're embarrassing ourselves for your enjoyment, listener. Telling all about our personal experiences and such.
Dun.
Exactly.
The conversation of doom. You know too much now.
You know too much. Don't tell your friends, but tell your friends about our podcast.
I know another big thing in Disney Channel, and even, like, going on to Nickelodeon, just, like, any show that had, like, actual children on there, like fat shaming seemed to always be a thing that would go on.
Yeah. Oh, I do not like that.
Yeah, it was, like, a big problem. I know people still talk about it to this day, you know, especially as, like, casting, thank God, gets more diverse without, like, the crude jokes, you know? But then in retrospect, it's also really bad because I know, like, a lot of, you know, actresses specifically came out and be like, and talked about how, like, they had eating disorders while being on those shows.
Yeah.
You know, along with the jokes made about, you know, their plus-size co-stars, or even just, like, them, like, calling, you know, these very, you know, small, you know, to be frank, skinny girls, like, fat or something along those lines when, like, it wasn't true. Not that there's anything wrong with being fat, but it's also just, like, why would you say that?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like kids shows, like Disney and even Nickelodeon, like, they're very much, like, stereotyping each character. Like, you had the main girl, the, like, girl next door, and, I don't know, she would always be, like, conventionally attractive.
Yeah.
Even though it's, like, they're, like, 10, 12 years old.
Yeah,
it's, like,
no, they're like teenagers.
what does that even mean? You're just a kid. You're just trying to figure it out, you know? And then there'd be like, oh, I hate the stereotype. I hate it to my core. The like funny fat friend.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it sucks that they had like this stereotype, and like the actors or actresses most likely knew that that was their stereotype, that they were cast for that. Because I know, like, we have like Trish from Austin and Ally. Even though, don't get me wrong, she was funny.
She was hilarious. I loved her.
Yeah, I just wish that like they can just cast people for their own humor or their acting skill, rather than having to always fit like these stereotypes and like these check boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to fill in, you know, trying to cast somebody for every trope that they have in their shows, you know, and at the expense of, you know, minorities, you know. And so it's just like, there's like no perk in the end, because I mean, first of all, the show will age horribly.
Yeah.
And like second of all, like you're not ruining a whole generation, but you're making them feel horrible about themselves.
And I noticed like they say a lot of like fat jokes or food. Like it was always so uncomfortable. Like in Sweet Life on Deck, there was a character, Woody, and like 9 times out of 10 a joke would be like, oh, you're eating this chicken leg, oh you're eating that, oh you're full, or they would say that same sort of jokes for the dad in Wizards of Waverly Place too.
Oh.
Just because like someone is like a bit girthier or whatever, I don't know, but it's just uncomfortable. Like, you don't have to say that.
Yeah.
Like, the way society views body weight very much affects both women and men. And I don't think that these shows should have to make jokes like that, because they're not funny. They're just uncomfortable and mean.
Yeah. And again, like, you know, like, there's no like set audience for these shows. It's just like, at least when we were younger, whoever had cable, you know, so whoever just turned to that channel out of like the hundreds and hundreds of channels, you know, and you flip to it and then you see this, you know, about, you know, maybe you look like that character, you know, and you see the way that they're talking about them, and you don't feel good about yourselves. And then when, you know, your classmates who may also watch the show think that it's okay to talk to you like that, think that you'll find it funny, you know, expect these things of you, expect you to like food and, you know, to be like gluttonous, like they show people who are plus size on TV, even though that's not true, you know. So it's just like, it's just bad all around.
Yeah. Or sometimes like Disney, I know there was this one episode from Zack and Cody, like the original one, not the one where they're on the boat, the one in the hotel, where like there was like a fashion show, and Maddie and London, they were both going to be like models that walk down the aisle of like whatever fashion shows do. And like one of them was like, oh, I'm too skinny, I need to bulk up, and they would like eat a whole bunch. And then the other one was like, oh, I'm too fat, I need to stop eating. And I think Disney's message was supposed to be like, oh, you don't have to change yourself. You have your own beauty. But the way that they went about it in that episode and making those jokes, having both those actresses like look at like their body in a certain way, even though like they never expressed that before in other episodes.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, it was just kind of off to me.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell Disney was trying to send a good message, but I don't know if the message came through.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, kids aren't stupid.
Kids aren't
stupid.
You
know, kids aren't stupid. They observe a lot, you know, like they learn from watching people, from watching what they see in media, you know, and so like when they see these things, like obviously like it's gonna impact the way that they feel about themselves.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way it can't. You know, like even now, you know, being older, you know, being in college, and like when we read books, when we watch movies, you know, like we're emotionally impacted by them, even if we're not internalizing everything, you know, because now we know like the differences and we can, you know, explore the nuances now that we're older. You know, like we still see like the harm in some things that they do in film, like, whether it's in the past or whether they're still doing it.
Yeah, I feel like now looking at how I was when I was younger, like what I watched and what I consume, like what media I consume, I can definitely feel like the repercussions still now. sometimes I'm like, ooh, I should probably lose a few or like eat better or do this. And it's just hard, like unlearning that
Yeah.
or like like teaching yourself. It's like you can be beautiful in your own way,
Yeah.
in your own body, you know.
And I feel like that's something like I don't watch any of the newer shows now, you know, but like I assume if they were still making these jokes, people would like blow up on TikTok or on Instagram. But like still, like there's a whole generation of kids that just grew up with jokes like that, you know, and they carry that stuff with them, you know, because like you don't realize how much it affects you until you get older, you know, so you start having these conversations where you break it down, and not everyone gets to that point till, you know, they're considerably older.
Yeah. Definitely. When you like break things down from like the stuff that you used to watch, it's so interesting, like seeing all these different layers of like different rules that society has. And I think shows are trying to be a lot more diverse, movies and shows, but like you said, I don't really watch any of like the newer stuff. I don't know. I'm not a little kid, but I will.
I'm not with it anymore.
I will keep watching Wizards of Waverly Place. That is a comfort show of mine.
Like even just the writing in newer shows, like it seems like they've compromised with like, okay, now we're more diverse. We don't make, you know, offensive jokes, but like all of a sudden like their writing's like horrible, as if like they needed the bigotry to be good writers. You know?
Yeah.
And it kind of ties into, I think, the whole conversation with AI, too. Because I don't know how much Disney is using AI and stuff like that, but, like, it just makes you think. Because it's just, like, the shows we watched when we were younger were so funny. The writing was so good. Now it also has to do with the fact that they don't pay the writers as well as they should.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting seeing the different, like you were saying, like, writing. Because I feel like in early 2000s, it was very, like, internet shock value. We're gonna say all these offensive jokes, and it's like, why? You don't need that to be funny. I know. I watch a lot of Modern Family.
Oh.
And the thing is, like, the writing is so good.
Yeah, it's really funny.
And like occasionally they would play on stereotypes, like Gloria's character.
Yeah.
Like they would still be able to like write really funny situations without being like super offensive.
Yeah.
Like it would just be more situational comedy.
Yeah. And I think there's a way to like make jokes, you know, especially, and it helps of course if like the writers are themselves the minorities that they're writing about, that you know, that's being talked about, that's being joked about, you know. But it's also just like, yeah, like there are jokes that I found funny that kind of surround like blackness and like hair, but like they weren't in ill taste, they weren't in poor taste, you know, as a lot of them were. But like, oh, you know, like your hair is so like this and this and this. And it's just like, that's not even funny. Like you're just repeating racist stereotypes about black people.
Yeah.
You know, but like there's funny ways to like joke about things that like happen in the respective communities.
Like you were saying, like the writers who are writing these jokes should be part of that community. And like even like the people like not on screen like should be also just as diverse as the like cast or whoever, because I don't know, I feel like this was a thing with like the strike that happened in Hollywood. Like yeah, the shows would be diverse, but like the cast or the crew members and backstage, it would be a lot like, here's some guys. Here's like not enough diversity.
Yeah.
So then it like there wasn't like this accessibility to different types of like shows or like I wish there was just more variety.
Yeah, and the thing is like the people in the communities, they can tell when the writers aren't like from their community. Like you can kind of feel it in terms of like just like sometimes there's like a malice behind the jokes, and you can feel that through the screen, you know, through like the writing and then onward into the actor's performance, you know. And not just so the actor themselves is, you know, like racist or homophobic or like fatphobic or like whatever is applicable to the situation, but it's also just like, I mean, like what do you do? It's just like it's just weird, you know. It's just like it doesn't seem, at least to us, at least to me, it doesn't seem that hard to just, you know, like employ people who are, you know, part of that minority group, and then like employ actors, you know, who are part of that minority group. It's like, oh my gosh, look at that, it like works out perfectly, and then just pay everybody a fair living wage.
Yeah, They should.
Yeah, it's
You
a
know,
great idea.
you know what's so interesting? I watched the Quiet on Set documentary
Oh,
this
okay.
past weekend. That's a crazy documentary. You got first off, I wouldn't go into that without mentally preparing because there's a
Yeah.
lot of heavy topics that it goes over. But they were talking about how the Nickelodeon shows, like, there was only, like, most of the writers there were men,
Mm-hmm.
and at one point they hired 2 women, and they made them share their paycheck. I know!
That's crazy.
That's illegal. That's literally illegal.
That's insane.
But, like, they did that, and, like, even though they both were there, like, they were still treated very, very poorly by,
Mhm.
like, all the men and, like producers and just the people there.
Yeah.
Eventually, like, one quit, and then the other lady, she's like, I can't do this by myself.
Yeah.
And, like, even then, when she was, like, about to be rehired, she told, I think, someone from the union, she's like, I'm not being paid correctly, am I? And then she got backlash from it by, like, sticking up for her fair wages, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
That documentary was a lot.
Yeah, no, it's definitely on my watch list because I mean, like, they're shows like we knew growing up. You know, they're actors that like we grew up with to some extent. You know, just hearing them, you know, talk about what they've been through. You know, in terms of like just their experiences on set and with, you know, producers and writers and stuff like that is definitely something worth watching.
Yeah, I was much more of a Disney kid than I was a Nickelodeon kid.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't watch much Nickelodeon. I don't know. I think my parents just naturally put on the Disney Channel. So I'm over here. I'm like, okay, I'll watch Hannah Montana or Wizards of Waverly Place, Phineas and Ferb. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I mean, like, Nickelodeon was good for like cartoons, but even then, like, Cartoon Network was peak.
Yeah.
It was best cartoons in my opinion. So good, like consistently good.
I wish I watched more cartoons growing up. I
Yeah.
feel like my mom didn't really let me watch them. My mom literally said, no SpongeBob for you. She was very strict about that. So, like, whenever my boyfriend brings up, oh, I watched SpongeBob, or do you remember this reference? I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, but don't worry, I'm the same way with like Hannah Montana, Wizards of Waverly Place, like Shake It Up. I didn't watch those.
No?
I still have, to this day I haven't seen them, and so like I don't even know like the general premise for some of the shows. Like just didn't grow up watching them.
Yeah.
And like by the time they were on streaming platforms, I'm just like, I don't really feel like watching all this.
I feel like those shows, you can't really get into them after, like, childhood.
Yeah, it's a little hard.
Because, like, it's just the nostalgia that I think that I really like those shows. I think if I watched, like, if I didn't watch them when I was a kid and watched them now, I'd be like, I don't really get it.
Yeah.
But now when I'm older, just looking back, being all nostalgic and listening to the theme songs and stuff, I'm like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
this is my jam.
Yeah. But I'm also, one thing I'm also glad for, as like representation does get better, you know, to some extent. Because I know one thing I'm glad for with younger kids is that the representation is, you know, better for them, at least in some aspects. It still has a long way to go. We definitely know that. But I know, you know, Halle Bailey, she played the live action Ariel, Little Mermaid. And I know there's a lot of backlash about that, you know, because the character is originally white and she is a black woman and she did have like locks. Her character did have locks. And so, but it was just like really cool seeing that on the screen. Like, first of all, her voice is like angelic.
Yeah.
It's angelic, like
It's
that
so
soundtrack.
beautiful.
It's so gorgeous. Like I want to get it on vinyl. Like it's beautiful, you know. But it's just so great because I know like just seeing like videos of little black girls being like, oh my gosh, like she looks like me.
Yeah.
You know, she looks like me.
Those videos are so cute. Every time I
know.
see like one of those videos, I'm like, oh my goodness, I love it.
Yeah, and I know as like, well, I think that Disney doesn't need to remake everything into a live action adaptation. Even just with like, there's a lot of, I'll call it discourse about, you know, like Rapunzel castings. You know, because I believe her name is Avantika. She played Karen in the Mean Girls movie, and people are talking about casting her as, you know, it's mostly fan casting, but like to me it makes sense. You know, like in South Asian culture, a lot of emphasis is put on hair. You know, hair oiling and stuff like that. It's a really important part of their culture. You know, so like it makes sense. And plus, anybody can slap on a blonde wig.
True.
You know, if that's the problem.
I I honestly, like, if she was like Rapunzel, I would be so for it. I
Yeah.
really liked her in Mean Girls. She was like actually my favorite character.
Yeah, she
in,
was
like,
really funny.
in the new one. But like, I was surprised that I liked her that much.
I think everybody was.
Yeah.
From like seeing like conversations online.
Yeah, but I think she'd be really talented, and like you were saying, anyone could just put on a blonde wig
Yeah.
or just a long wig. I think it would make sense if it was blonde, since I
Yeah.
know in the movie it like lights up, and I feel like
Yeah.
that would be kind of hard to do on like darker hair.
Yeah.
So like in like technicalities and stuff like that, that would make sense.
Yeah.
But I am all for pushing for more diverse casting roles for
Yeah.
shows and movies and such.
I know some people call it like colorblind casting, and while like in most conversations the term colorblindness does not have good connotations,
Yeah.
like it can be really nice because I mean like people of color aren't written into a lot of stories, and so like even just with like, you know, shows like Bridgerton, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like I've read the books, you know, like all the characters, you know, are white, you know, they're white, and so like seeing people getting cast, you know, other like people of color getting cast, like it's really great, you know, it's really cool, and like it doesn't really change the story, it doesn't really impact the story at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a slight mention here about like, oh, why is this the way it is, but like it's like romance, you know, like the plot itself, like all these siblings like finding their true loves
Yeah.
isn't super likely, let's be honest, as much as I want it to be for all those big families. You know, like it's like it's a romance series, you know, like it doesn't have to be like rooted in, you know, this reality. It's like it's fun to like kind of just imagine that like there was kind of this harmony between everybody.
I feel like when it comes to casting, it shouldn't be blindness, more of color acceptance.
Yeah.
And more like, I don't know, just showing more like different colors, different body types, different hair types.
Yeah.
Because without diversity, you get simplicity, and it's so boring.
Yeah, exactly.
When you see the same things over and over again, you're like, okay.
Yeah. And there are rich cultures everywhere, and you can just do so much with that when you're implementing it into like different time periods.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like seeing like Kate Sharma's outfits in season 2 of Bridgerton.
Yeah.
The best season of Bridgerton so far. It's beautiful the way they implemented her culture into it, you know. I'm just like, it's a good watch every single time, you know. I get so excited when they drop teasers, you know, because the new season's coming out in a few months.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
When that comes out, I want
You're
to
gonna
talk
be sick
about
of
it.
me.
I'm gonna be sick of you, but I'm gonna be sick of myself too. That show really has a hold on me.
I know. One more thing that I wanted to mention in talking about like diversity in TV is like when we talk about like, you know, casting people of color in traditionally white roles, is it like, oh, like why don't you just like go out and write new roles, you know, for people of color, instead of like the term people we have to use is like hijacking, you know, or stuff like that, like taking away representation for white people, even though historically they've had more representation than anybody. You know, even like white people playing characters that are people of color.
Yeah.
You know, but like we do propose new stories and they get shot down by studios, you know, because they're too edgy, they're too out there, you know. So it's just like, I like it as long as the writing's good, I'll take what I can get.
I agree. That's another thing. It's like, yeah, we do want to tell these stories that are from our culture, but like producers or studios, they're like, no.
Yeah.
They're like, there's like that ceiling, that glass ceiling,
Exactly,
you know, that
yeah.
metaphor or simile or whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about. But like, it's just hard to get those stories out there. So like starting off with like stories that are like known or very recognizable, and having like black actors or just like people of color in them, I think is a good segue and like start of making, I don't know, more culture seen and more cultures that can be heard.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were saying, like these are like, they're classic stories, you know, especially when we're talking about like the Disney stories that were adapted from fairy tales. Like there were dozens of adaptations of all those stories before that point, and there'll be dozens more after that point, because they don't hold the rights to the original stories. Like people, you know, they're just like in the public. People manipulate them all the time, you know, and they make cool stuff out of them. So it's just like, you'll get, you know, there's just a lot of representation for, like, you know, princess stories.
Yeah.
You know, but it's really cool seeing it on screen. You know, on the big screen.
True.
Yeah.
I gotta go see more movies.
I know.
Keep watching Once Upon a Time and Bridgerton.
Gotta get out.
Yeah, I think, or more like stay in and just watch it.
Wait till it comes on streaming platforms.
Yeah, just watch more shows. Just relax. I think that's what the listener should do too. Go watch a show that's funny and diverse.
Yeah. I like One Day on Netflix. I'm almost done with that. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put that on my to be watch list. The one that keeps going from
The one that's never ending.
Yes, from last episode and now. And it'll probably keep growing.
My letterbox. It's gonna blow up one day.
Honestly, yeah. So yeah.
Thank you for listening.
That was this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I am again Angelina, your co-host.
And I'm Kenna.
Another co-host. Just kidding. But we hope that you enjoyed it and be back for the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye.